So today we are going to discuss about exception handling part 8.3 finally and return interaction, nested try catch and exam traps. So the interaction between finally and return is a very common exam topic. Let's go through the scenarios one by one. Scenario 1, the try block has a return statement. Java does not return immediately. It first stores the return value, then executes the finally block. After finally finishes, the method returns the value. So the order is finally runs first, then the return happens. Scenario 2, the catch block returns 1, but before the return completes, finally runs again. Now if finally also has a return statement, for example return 2, that return overrides everything else. So even though catch tried to return 1, the method actually returns 2. The catch return is completely ignored. And scenario 3 is if System.exit is called inside try, the JVM shuts down. Okay. So these three scenarios is the finally and return interaction. So if we go to the code, we have try and then finally, right? So execution enters try is printed, then we hit return 1. You might expect the method to hand back 1 immediately and exit, but Java does not do that. It knows the return value of 1, then pauses the return and runs finally first. Okay. Finally executes, finally is printed. Now the return completes and the method hands back 1 to the caller. So the console shows try and then finally, and the caller receives 1. Finally ran, but it did not change the return value because it had no return statement of its own. So next we have catch runtime exception E, system.out.println catch and return 1, and finally system.out.println and finally return 2, right? So an exception is thrown, catch handles it, prints catch and prepares to return 1. As always, before the return happens, finally runs, finally is printed. But this time, finally has its own return statement, return 2. So when finally returns, it completely overrides the pending return from catch. The return 1 that catch was about to send back is discarded entirely. Okay. The method returns 2, not 1. Output is catch, then finally, and the caller receives 2. This is the most dangerous pattern in Java. So a return inside finally silently swallows the return value from try or catch. The exam loves this, okay? So now we have system.exit and system.exit 0 within try, and then finally system.out.println never, right? So this we have already discussed, but still let us discuss this. System.exit is called inside try. The JVM shuts down immediately. There is no exception, no return, no unwinding of the call stack. The JVM simply stops. Finally never gets a chance to run and never is never printed. This is the only one and only situation where finally does not execute, okay? Nested try-catch exception propagation. Try-catch blocks can be nested inside other try-catch or even finally blocks. The key question is always which catch block will handle the exception. Java checks for a matching catch from inside to outside. When an exception is thrown, it first looks at the innermost try block. If a matching catch is found there, the catch handles the exception, and an execution continues after that block. Okay. If no match is found, the exception moves outward to the next enclosing try catch. This continues until a matching catch is found, or the exception reaches the top and the program terminates. Okay. So if you see the example, an IO exception is thrown and the inner catch handles arithmetic exception, so it does not match. Okay. So the exception then moves outward and is caught by outer catch for IO exception. Now let's move through the code here. So if you see the first block, exception is handled by inner catch, right? So try, then system.out.println, then try again, int x is equal to 10 by 0, then catch arithmetic exception e and system.out.println. Then again system.out.println and catch exception e. So this is the block, right? So this is the first block. So here execution enters the outer try is printed, then we enter the inner try, 10 divided by 0 throws arithmetic exception. Java immediately looks for a matching catch block in the innermost enclosing try. So it finds a catch arithmetic exception, so that matches, so inner catch is printed. The exception is fully handled right there. But because the inner try catch resolved the exception completely, exception continues normally after the inner try catch block. So continues is printed. The outer catch block never runs because no exception escaped to the outer level. So output is outer try, inner catch continues. 3 lines, okay. And now we have a second block. So here we have a try, and then throw new IO exception, then catch, catch arithmetic exception E, system.out.println inner catch, then catch IO exception E, and system.out.println outer catch. So here what happens is that we enter the inner try and throw an IO exception. Java looks for a matching catch block in the inner try. It finds catch arithmetic exception, but IO exception is not an arithmetic exception, so there is no match. Since the inner catch does not match, the exception escapes the inner try entirely. It now propagates outward to the next enclosing try, the outer try. Java checks the outer catch block. It finds catch IO exception that matches. So outer catch is printed. And output is just outer catch, one line. The inner catch block never executed because the exception type did not match. Okay. Full scenario trace output prediction, right? So we have, let us trace this example step by step, because the OCA frequently gives you a method with try and catch finally and asks you to predict the exact output including the return value. So we enter the try block, A is printed, then we hit if true throw new runtime exception, right? The condition is always true, so the exception is thrown immediately. The next line, system.out.println B is never reached. So it is unreachable code, but Java still compiles it without error because the compiler does not always evaluate conditions at compile time. Catch block. The runtime exception catches the catch block. We enter catch, C is printed, then we hit return 1. Java notes the pending return value of 1, but before the return actually happens, finally must run. Okay, so finally executes, D is printed, finally has no return statement of its own, so it does not override the pending return value of 1, so finally completes normally. Then return 1 from the catch block now completes. Method returns 1 to the caller. So last line return 2 is never reached. Okay, so it would only execute if the try block completed normally with no exception. Since an exception was thrown and caught with a return inside catch, that path is taken instead. Okay. And now we are back in main, so we have int result is equal to method and system.out.println result, so result is 1 and main prints 1. Okay, so complete output is what? A, C, D, 1. Okay, so now we come to the practice question. So this is the final question and it combines everything that we have covered so far. So here we are entering, say we enter the compute method and we enter the try block, so 1 is printed, then we hit return 10. Java knows the pending return value of 10 and prepares to exit the try block. No exception was thrown anywhere, so the catch block is skipped entirely. 2 is never printed, and then finally runs. Before the return of 10 completes, finally runs. That is the rule. Finally always runs before any return takes effect. Okay, so we enter finally 3 is printed, then we hit return 30. Then we hit return 30. Now finally has its own return statement. Okay, so this completely overrides the pending return 10 from the try block, and return 10 is gone, discarded silently. The method will now return 30. Okay, and then you are back in main, so we have system.out.println compute, so compute return 30, so main prints 30. So complete output would be 1, 3 and 30. Okay, so option B. So we have many such questions in javalearn.clustermicro.com, 1624 questions there. We have 29 full-length practice tests available there. All are timed exams and fully cloud-native platform. This is a single-page application, and so you will get a certificate also for attendance as well as if you pass those exams. So all the best. Thanks for your time.